welcome to Live Parkinson's, Live an Exceptional Life. I'm your host, Chris Custenbotter, and I've been living with Parkinson's for the past 13 years. The mission of this podcast is to help as many people living with Parkinson's as possible live a great quality of life. Today's episode is on the 5 proven benefits of music therapy on the most common Parkinson's symptoms. Are you struggling with some of your Parkinson's symptoms? Do you like listening to music? If you answered yes, then this podcast is for you. We're going to dive into how music therapy can help alleviate your bothersome Parkinson's symptoms. Now, before we get started, I just have a brief disclaimer that I wanted to go over, and that is that this podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose or treat Parkinson's disease. Please follow the treatment plan prescribed by your physician. This podcast is based on my own personal experiences and is for informational purposes only. Now, before we dive into music therapy, I thought it's important to really understand what music therapy is before we discuss what the benefits are. Music therapy, essentially, it's using music as a therapeutic tool to meet your personal and clinical goals. So it might be you're having trouble with freezing, and you want to overcome freezing, and you're going to use music therapy to help you with that. It could be that you're having some trouble with your speech or swallowing. You can use music therapy to help you with that as well. So it's a therapeutic tool that's going to provide you a benefit to help you with your Parkinson's symptoms. Now, we all know that music moves us both emotionally and physically. I mean, how many times have you been sitting there listening to the radios and subconsciously you just start tapping your foot to a song? That's part of music therapy. And so that we're going to delve into the benefits of music therapy today. And then I'm also going to relate a story with my journey with learning the guitar to help provide some perspective on how music therapy's really impacted and affected my life. So I'll touch on that later in the episode. But let's get started with what the 5 benefits of music therapy are. I'm going to give you a general overview first of all, and then we'll go into more specifics in just a moment. Let's take a look at the 5 benefits of music on helping people with Parkinson's help manage their symptoms. The first one is motor function. Music can help improve your motor function by providing rhythmic cues that can help people with Parkinson's move more easily and with greater coordination. And music is shown to help both reduce tremors and stiffness as well. Number 2 is gait and balance. Music can help your gait and balance by providing a steady rhythm to walk to. This can help people with Parkinson's to walk with a more normal stride length and help avoid falls. I know one of the things my wife always gets mad at me about, and sometimes my neighbor, they're always asking me, why do you have headphones in all the time? Well, one of the reasons is because when I listen to music and I'm walking, it helps me with my gait. I walk a lot better because there's a steady beat and it improves my walking, and I can actually move around better when I'm listening to music than I am when I'm not listening to music. Number 3, freezing of gait. Many of us experience this where you feel like your feet are stuck to the floor, and sometimes you need some type of cue to get you moving. And so when you're having difficulty with your freezing, music can help give you that cue to help get you started and overcome what's holding you back so that you can move freely again. Number 4, speech and swallowing. By providing rhythmic cues, we can help people with PD control their muscles, which are important in swallowing and in speech. So if you can provide those rhythmic clues, a lot of times it's through singing or humming, and which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail here in a minute. But those things also strengthen the muscles that you use in speech and swallowing. And number 5 is mood and cognition. It helps provide a pleasurable and stimulating experience. It can help reduce stress and anxiety. How many of you like to go to concerts, and you go to a concert because you love listening to the music of your favorite bands and you love the way it makes you feel? Sometimes it can take you back to memories to a certain time point in your life that makes you feel good, which can help reduce anxiety and stress and help live a greater quality of life when you're listening to music. Okay, now that we've looked at a general overview of the 5 benefits, now let's take a deeper dive into how music therapy can help with some of the most common Parkinson's symptoms. Let's start with motor function. Exactly what are we talking about with motor function? Well, as most of you know, if you have Parkinson's, that there are typically 4 key motor symptoms: tremor, rigidity, bradykinesia or slowness of movement, and stoop posture, or balance issues. So when we're talking, as we're going through this and we're talking about motor function, those are the four things that we're going to talk about. One of the first ways that music therapy can help benefit the patient with Parkinson's is that it provides rhythmic cues. And what rhythmic cues do is they provide a steady beat for the person to follow. And that can be helpful when they're for tasks like walking, dancing, and other things. So if you're not familiar with music, a lot of the music that you listen to on the radio or when you go to a concert is written in what they call 4/4 timing. And that just means that there's 4 beats per measure. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And some songs are written in what they call 6/8 timing. One of those that you're probably familiar with if you've seen the movie Shrek, Hallelujah. And that's in 6/8 timing. So that would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So those are examples of how rhythmic cues can help the person with Parkinson's maintain a steady beat and a steady gait to help with their motor symptoms. And one of the ways you can do that is to get a metronome. And one of the things I use is a metronome app. And there's a bunch of different metronome apps out there, but I use a metronome a lot when I'm practicing guitar so that I'm staying in time with the music and staying in time with the beat, especially if I'm trying to learn a new scale for soloing later on. I want to make sure that I start out very slowly and then build into it. So I'll set the metronome at a slow pace and then continually build once as I become proficient. So rhythmic cues are one of the ways that music therapy can help people with motor function issues. Another one is improved coordination. It can help improve coordination by training the brain to pay attention to multiple things at one time. So you're concentrating on moving your feet and walking at a certain pace while at the same time listening to the rhythmic beat of the metronome or the music that you're listening to. And this can help people with difficulty coordinating their movements. So that's another benefit that music therapy can provide in terms of motor function. Another is reducing tremors. The rhythmic nature of music can help reduce tremors by providing a competing sensory input, because what that does is it helps override some of the brain's ability to that when it's causing tremors. So if you're more stimulated by the music and the rhythm of the music, it oftentimes can help offset the tremors that you may be experiencing. So it helps reduce the tremors. That's another great benefit of music therapy. Another one is increasing motivation. Music can motivate, and it's an enjoyable activity, and it can encourage people with PD to exercise more. I'll give you an example. I know every time that I go out to exercise, whether I'm walking, weightlifting, I always have a playlist that I set so that I can listen to music while I'm exercising, because it really helps motivate me to push through the exercise program and continue and finish. But it also helps motivate me to go out and exercise. So it's a great way to help people exercise, because one of the things that we know is exercise can help slow the progression of Parkinson's. So that's one of the things that I use to help me in terms of making sure that I exercise on a regular basis, and music is right there to help me stay motivated and really push through the workouts. Let's look at some specific examples of how music therapy can help people motor function issues. One is it was what they call rhythmic auditory cueing. And what that involves is a metronome, like we had just talked about, and you set it for a certain beat, a nice steady beat, and you have the person with Parkinson's follow the beat. So, of course, you're going to start the beat out slowly so that they can keep up, and then you can gradually increase the metronome until they're walking at their normal gait or their normal pace. Another is melodic intonation therapy. Now, that really sounds confusing, but what it essentially does is it uses singing or humming to help people with PD improve their speech and swallowing. It helps to strengthen the muscles in the throat, and when you're singing or humming, it helps with your speech patterns as well. Another one is instrumental music training, learning to play an instrument such as a piano or guitar. And I'll talk about my guitar journey here in just a little bit, but it helps to improve your fine motor skills, coordination, and your cognitive function. I know with guitar, it's really helped me with both my fretting hand in terms of my bad side is my left side, and it's really helped me with, in terms of fretting, it's really helped me with my fine motor skills. And then also the coordination, having to strum and switch between chords at the same time can be difficult. So it's given me the challenge to be able to do that. And then finally, cognitive function. One of the things I've learned to do is read music so I can play songs with the notes or I can play with the chords. So, and also it's helped to teach me to listen to try to play by ear to pick out what chords and notes that the musicians are playing. So those are some of the benefits that music therapy can help a person with Parkinson's in terms of motor function. So it's a great way to help reduce stiffness, tremors, but also to help you exercise more. So I highly recommend it. The second one is gait and balance. And what we're talking about there is gait, of course, is how well is our walking? Do we walk in a regular, steady pace in our normal the distance between our footsteps? Or I know one of the first signs that I had before I was diagnosed was I was dragging my leg when I was walking. So it really affected my gait. So that's one of the things that I had to concentrate on. I went to physical therapy to help me with that once I was diagnosed, and it's really helped me to improve my walking. But the way music therapy can help is it provides rhythmic clues, again, just like we talked about with the motor function. And the steady beat of the music helps people with Parkinson's because it helps their maintain consistent strides and lengths. This is really going to help you with your walking. So I highly recommend that if you're having problems with some of your gait, like I said before, one of the things I always do is when I'm around the house is I put my headphones in and I go for a walk or just do household chores because it really helps me stay on the beat and maintain my walking in a normal manner. Another thing it does, it promotes automatic movement. And we're talking about automatic movement is where you don't have to consciously think about making a move. It's just automatic. And some examples would be when you're walking. Normally you're not thinking about it unless you're having problems with it. Then you're going to think about it and it might cause you some problems. So it's going to help you it's going to help you focus your attention on other things so that you don't have to think about your walking and you can just maintain that consistent pace that you normally do. It's kind of like breathing. Normally, you don't think about breathing until maybe for some reason you have a panic attack or you have a lot of anxiety. Then all of a sudden you start to focus on your breathing and say, why am I breathing so hard? And promoting automatic movement, you're allowing yourself to do some walking using the music to help you walk without thinking about it. Another thing it does is it helps to improve your motor planning and sequencing. So what that means is it allows you to have the ability to organize and execute a series of movements. And that's beneficial for tasks like walking, turning, and moving around obstacles. So you're asked to do a particular task where they say, I want you to go around the red cone, then around the orange cone, and then turn around and go by the blue cone. That's a sequence that you have to follow. And music can really help you improve that process. If you're listening to music while you're doing the process, it's going to make it a little bit easier for you to do that. And then it also enhances dopamine release. As you're all aware, those of us with Parkinson's, we are lacking in dopamine. That's why we typically take dopaminergic agents. But what music is shown to do is increase the dopamine levels in your brain. And we all know that dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a critical role in our motor control and coordination. So elevated dopamine levels are going to contribute to improvements in our gait and balance. That's a great benefit. And then finally it encourages motivation and engagement. If you sit and listen to music with somebody else, you go to a concert with a friend, you go to see a play, or you sing or dance, whatever it happens to be. Some of the times if you're dancing, it gives you the opportunity to engage in physical activity, but it also can help you with your gait training, but it also gives you the chance to interact socially with other people. So it helps prevent social isolation and loneliness. So music draws people together. And so it's a great way to sit with friends and family and listen to songs that you enjoy, or listen to family members that plays an instrument. And they play songs for you and everybody sits around and sings to the songs. So it's a great opportunity to help motivate and engage and help with your gait and balance. Finally, it helps to reduce anxiety and fear of falling, because psychologically you're a little bit worried about falling, and music is going to help you feel more confident because it's going to give you those rhythmic cues to help keep you on task and take your thoughts away from falling because you're concentrating on the rhythmic cues that you're getting from the music. Those are the benefits of gait and balance. Now let's take a look at the third benefit, which is freezing of gait. And again, you'll hear that there's a constant theme with most of these, and they all start out with the rhythmic cues. Freezing of gait is no different. Now, remember we said freezing is when you have difficulty initiating, getting started, and you also feel like your feet are stuck to the floor. So rhythmic cues, again, are going to help that because they provide a steady beat and an external cue that helps people, PD, synchronize their steps to overcome that hesitation that you often have with freezing. And it helps you maintain a consistent walking pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So when you hear that constant, those rhythmic cues, it helps you to stay on track in terms of your walking. Another benefit in terms of freezing of gait is auditory entrainment. And what does that mean? Entrainment. Well, it's training your brain so that your motor symptoms align the brain activity with the musical rhythm. So your brain can facilitate new neural processes that initiate and maintain your gait. And one of the things that we talked about in one of the previous podcasts was neuroplasticity, and that's the ability to create new neural pathways. And music can help with your gait and your freezing, and in terms of being able to overcome the inertia of not being able to move. Another one is attentional focus, when you're walking with more automatic movements rather than having to think about it. So music can help overcome the cognitive block that underlies the issues of freezing and gait. Okay, benefit number 4 was speech and swallowing. And again, here we go with the rhythmic cues. So with rhythmic cues, the steady beat of music can help people time their movements more accurately, including movements of the lips, tongue, and jaw that are involved in speech and swallowing. So music can help you synchronize those particular muscle groups and anatomical parts so that they're synchronizing to help you with your speech and swallowing. I know one of the things I do a lot is I'm slower, but I tend to bite my cheek or I'll bite my lip sometimes when I'm eating because I'm not fast enough in getting the lip or the cheek out of the way. So I end up biting my lip, which that'll wake you up really quick. So I take my time and not bite my lip. Another thing is it strengthens your muscles. Singing and humming can help strengthen the muscles of your throat and face, which can improve speech and swallowing. And then finally, it improves your breath control. Singing and humming can improve breath control, which is important for both speech and swallowing. You want to be able to, when you're talking, you want to be able to have appropriate pauses, take breaths when needed, and singing and humming can do that. It's a great opportunity to help with your speech and swallowing. And if any of you have gone to a speech therapist, I know I have, they highly recommend that. And it's a great way to also help increase your volume. I know that's one thing I probably have to go back and revisit the speech therapist is, I can't hear what you're saying. I need you to speak up because as Parkinson's progresses, your voice becomes softer. So I need to make a conscious effort to talk louder so that I can be understood. And then finally, the fifth benefit is mood and cognition. And in terms of mood, how does music therapy help you with your mood? Well, it helps reduce stress and anxiety, for one. Listening to music helps release dopamine, and we all know that dopamine has been shown to reduce stress. It's involved in two things. It's movement, but then it's also involved in your pleasure centers. So it helps your mood by improving a sense of pleasure and enjoyment, and it provides you a sense of social connection. When you're listening and participating with others, you feel good. Yeah, I mean, when you go to a concert and you look around, everybody's cheering as they're playing songs and yelling. And so it's a great way to have social connections as well. And then in terms of cognition, it stimulates multiple areas of the brain to help improve your memory, attention, and your language skills. It improves your mood. When we are in a good mood, we're better able to remember information. Think about when you're in a bad mood. Is it easy to remember someone's phone number or address or what you were supposed to get at the grocery store? Probably not. But when you're in a good mood, it's a lot easier to remember information that's important in your life. So those are the 5 benefits of music therapy on common symptoms associated with Parkinson's. And again, they were motor function, gait and balance, freezing of gait, speech and swallowing, and mood and cognition. So most of us have all had issues with those. So music therapy can play a really big role in helping you to overcome or manage a lot of those common symptoms that we all experience. So I wanted to take some time now to share my personal journey with music therapy and how learning how to play guitar has really helped me with my symptoms of Parkinson's. I wanted to share with you my journey with learning the guitar. And if any of you have had a chance to read my book, Spectacular Life, 4 Strategies for Living with Parkinson's Disease, My Journey to Happiness, which is available on Amazon. In one of the chapters, I talk about my musical journey. I am a person that I like to thrive off challenging myself to learn new hobbies and skills. In fact, besides guitar, I learned how to create and design websites. And so I'm always trying to challenge myself to learn new things because it really does help with your memory and cognition as well. So at the age of 54, I decided that I wanted to, after I had Parkinson's for about 7 years or so, I decided I want to learn guitar. And so I said to my wife and kids that really like to learn guitar and didn't really think much about it. And then for my birthday, they got me a gift certificate to the local guitar shop. And so I went up and I purchased a entry-level guitar based on the recommendations of the owner. And then he said, yeah, I would highly recommend that you sign up for some lessons so that you can progress a lot faster on the guitar. Now, at the time, I knew absolutely nothing about the guitar. I knew that it had 6 strings. I knew that there was an acoustic and electric version, but that's about all I knew. My biggest exposure to music was back in middle school, which is probably 45 years ago. And I played drums for a little bit, mainly just the snare drum and the triple drums like you'd see in the pep band. But one of the reasons I wanted to learn guitar is because growing up, I always had 3 favorite guitarists. First one was Angus Young from AC/DC. Just loved his solos, but I also loved the way he would work the crowd during live concerts. I just thought he had the total package in terms of performance, but then also musical ability. The second one was Eddie Van Halen. I just thought Eddie Van Halen knew the guitar inside and out, and I was just amazed at how he could just effortlessly move up and down the fretboard and create some of the songs that he did. For instance, on some songs like Eruption and Ain't Talking About Love, just amazed at his guitar playing skills. And finally, Brian May of Queen. He bought his guitar, I think it's called Big Red, with his dad, and he played that guitar everywhere he went. But I just thought he was a great guitarist. If you listen to Bohemian Rhapsody and some of the other great songs that Queen has, I was just impressed. So that was one of my main drivers for learning how to play guitar. Now, since then, I listened to some other great guitarists like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Joe Bonamassa, and I've really expanded my musical genre, of course, too. I like country. I like a lot of different types of music now. But anyway, to get back to my story, I realized at the outset that learning guitar was going to be a difficult process. Number one, having tremors was going to make it difficult to fret and make chords and feel like you have some cognitive decline, but also discoordination. I felt like I was slow. So I was thinking, am I going to have trouble forming chords and strumming at the same time? I went to the first guitar lesson, and one of the things that the instructor had me do was learn the 9 what I call cowboy chords that are used throughout most pop songs and rock songs that you hear on the radio. And the reason they call them cowboy songs is you can use those to play songs around the campfire or songs for your friends. But they're the 9 chords that are typically included in almost every song that you hear, and they include things like the G, C, D, E, A chords and so on. So one of the challenges I had was, can I make these chord shapes? So certain chords I found relatively easy. The G chord, the D chord, the A chord, E chord, I mastered those pretty quickly. And then I ran into the dreaded C chord, where you had to stretch your fingers across 3 different frets and 4 different strings. And I thought, oh, I'm never going to be able to do this. And my guitar journey is going to be dead in the water right here because a lot of the songs that you hear on the radio have the C chord in. In fact, one of the scales that is used relatively often is the C scale. So if I couldn't make a C chord, it was going to exclude thousands of different songs that I could learn to play. So what I decided to do was, as I normally do, is put my head down and focus and go out and learn as much as I could about what's the best way to learn the C chord. So I went on YouTube and watched all kinds of videos on how guitar teachers taught the C chord and how to make the shape relatively quickly. I asked other guitarists how they did it. So each night I would sit and practice for 15 or 20 minutes until I finally was able to make the C chord. And so now I was ready. I felt like I'm ready to go. I've got all the chords in and I'm set, so I can make all the 9 chord shapes. But then you run into transitioning between chords, because nobody wants to listen to somebody play where they play a chord and then there's a 15-second or 10-second break. Then they play another chord. They want to hear a nice transition between from one chord to the other, which you hear in songs. So I was struggling at first, thinking, how am I going to be able to transition between chords in order to be able to play songs along with the beat and as well as play along to the recording. So what I did was, if the TV was on at night, I would sit there for 20 to 25 minutes and just practice going from one chord to the next. Now, I do what I always do. I started out small and build on my successes. So I decided I was going to start with the G chord and then transition to the D chord, which is a common move. So I would practice for the first couple nights. I would just practice going from G to D, and would practice as slow as I needed to be able to do that. Then as I became more proficient, I would increase the speed. And as I increased the speed, then once I felt comfortable that I could transition on the timing using a metronome, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then be ready to be on the D chord at the number 1 of the next measure, then I was ready to move on to adding another chord. So I did that with all the chords. Then I eventually added another chord. So I went from G to D to A. Then I added the E chord, and so on until I was able to confidently transition between all the chords in a rapid manner. So now these were challenges that laid before me. And so once I was able to conquer those, I felt a lot better about where I was going with the guitar. Then the teacher asked me if I wanted to learn how to play songs with the notes. And I said, sure. And I'm glad I did, because now I can pick up a song. If someone just wants to hear the song played with the notes, maybe play along with you're accompanying somebody else, I can play with the notes. Now, again, I used the same process. I started out very slowly and very small, one measure at a time. Once I was confident with that, then I would add the next measure and so on. And so it helped me master those skills. And then COVID hit, and my teacher was in his 70s, and he said he wasn't going to be teaching anymore, and that he felt like that I had learned enough at this point that I was able to learn guitar on my own. And so I went off and learned to play songs that I wanted to learn on my own. And I was proud of myself, but I used what I'm calling I used the acronym. I used 3 specific things. One was, I'll call it PAP. It was persistence, attitude, and perseverance. And one of the things that guitar taught me is, even though it was going to be difficult at times, that if you took the time and you started out slow and you built on your successes, that you were going to be able to overcome the challenges. And it's the same way with Parkinson's and some of the symptoms that you run into. If you break things down into small steps and you work hard to overcome those challenges and build on successes, it's going to help you overcome the challenge, and you're going to feel good about yourself. So I overcame the challenge with persistence of learning the dreaded C chord, transitioning between chords, and then also incorporating strumming with transitioning chords. So I had to put all that together, and I was happy with myself that I was able to do that. So persistence goes a long way in helping you achieve your goal. And then attitude. Now, attitude, what I mean by attitude is, did I always have a positive attitude when I sat down to play guitar and I was struggling? No, you get frustrated and you can, and I think the more you try to play through the frustration, I think that's when you become even more frustrated, and then you really keep having a lot of errors. So a lot of times what I would do is, if I was having some trouble, as I put the guitar down, I'd go away and do something else for a couple hours and then come back and try it again. But just having the right mindset to go in and say, I can do this, I want to learn this, and I'm going to be able to overcome these obstacles, is just having the right attitude to stay focused and understand where you want to be, having some goals, and then going after the goals. If you have a positive attitude going in, it's really going to help you get to where you want to go in terms of your musical journey or whatever it happens to be that you're interested in. And then finally, the last one was perseverance. I learned that if you hang in there long enough and you work hard, set goals, and you practice consistently, you're creating those new neural pathways. You're going to be able to do it. And now I can pick up most pieces of music, or I can listen and say, I can play that. It might take me a little bit to do it, but I can say, okay, if I know the chords and I can listen to the strum pattern and I can listen to the beat, a lot of times I'll be able to play the song. So what it taught me is perseverance. Perseverance taught me to set goals, have some measures, and then reward yourself when you met your goals. So that was a key in helping me as the third piece of learning guitar. So it was persistence, attitude, and perseverance were the three big keys to helping me learn guitar. Now I'll finish with this story. And it's a story about, I was on a weekend trip down to Bradenton, Sarasota, Florida, and with my wife, my brother and sister-in-law, and they had tickets to a brunch where they had a group that was going to be playing music during the brunch and after the brunch for the afternoon. And the band was the Chad Hollister Band. They're a national band out of Vermont. They've recorded several CDs and records, and they've even toured with some of the big name artists of the time. So they were playing at the brunch, and at the intermission, I was over at their table looking at some of their souvenirs and things like that. And my wife had walked up and told him that I had Parkinson's and played guitar. So he came over then and asked me. I said, "Oh, I heard you play guitar. Would you like to play a song with us?" Well, I just learned about 2 or 3 weeks beforehand to learn or to play standing up. Typically, I sat down when I played the guitar, but I wanted to teach myself to play guitar while I was standing up. And so I did that. So luckily I did that before he asked me to do this, but there was about 70 to 80 people in attendance. And I had never played in front of more than 2 or 3 people at one time. So suffice it to say that, yes, I was very nervous, and I could have said no, but I decided to take a chance and said, sure, I'd love to play a song with you. And so they asked me what songs I knew, and I ran off a list of songs, and they weren't quite familiar with a lot of those, but they asked me what chords I knew how to play, and they said, "Do you know how to play the G, C, and the D chord?" And I said, "I sure do." And they said, "We're going to play Bob Marley, Stir It Up." And they said, "We'll cue you." And so I hadn't heard the song before, but as they started to play, I picked up on the beat, and I picked up on the strumming pattern with the lead guitarist, and it was a great experience. Chad Hollister, who's the lead singer and songwriter for the band, and then Primo, who's the lead guitarist, they were exceptional, and they were very accommodating and very helpful. At one point, I got nervous and dropped the pick and had to bend over and pick it up and, kind of get restarted. But, they were very appreciative, and the crowd was very appreciative that I attempted it. And I was very happy with the way the song turned out. And I was proud of myself that I got up in front of everybody and was able to play. And from where I started in my musical journey, just wanting to learn guitar and then being able to play with a group like that, and then in front of a number of different people, it was kind of like it was a culmination of all the hard work and that I put into learning the guitar. So it was a great experience. So as I close, I just want to suggest that you check into music therapy as an option, whether it's learning to play an instrument, whether it's singing, whether it's dancing. There's music can help you both emotionally and physically, and it's going to help you with all those motor or common symptoms that we talked about: motor function and gait and balance and freezing and speech and swallowing, your mood. So I would highly recommend it, and pick something you enjoy, but it also gives you the ability to interact socially with other people. So music therapy is just a great option. I decided to learn to play an instrument. I'm glad I did. And whether you decide to do that or not, I hope you try something. Try singing, like I said, singing, dancing, whatever it happens to be, but just try to incorporate music into your life. And I think it's really going to help you see that it's really going to help benefit your Parkinson's symptoms. So as we close, I'd like if you could visit my website, liveparkinsons.com, and sign up for the free monthly newsletter. I try to share a lot of pertinent information on helping people live a great quality of life with Parkinson's. And if you're interested more in learning about the strategies that I used to live an exceptional life with Parkinson's, my book's available on Amazon. It's called Spectacular Life: 4 Strategies for Living with Parkinson's, My Journey to Happiness. And it goes over a lot of the things that I talked about. Music therapy, I talk about heroes and coaches and things like that. So it's just a positive message, whether you have Parkinson's or you don't. So as we close, again, I would highly recommend that you do music, get yourself involved in music therapy. And then I thank you for listening, and I hope to see you on future podcasts. Thanks again.